stack them. I've had several different car wrecks over the years in different states. I've had a car totaled by a hit-and-run driver. I've fallen asleep driving, hit the median, and almost flipped my car. I've been hit 3 times while stopped at a stoplight. I've had a mechanic that took my BMW on a joyride and totaled it. And I've had 2 cars crashed by family members. Now, car insurance isn't a sexy money topic, but it's something that everybody needs. It can be expensive, and it can feel like a waste of money. But you could take a big financial hit and even go bankrupt if you don't have the right car insurance. So first, we're going to talk about all the insurance you need to avoid financial ruin, and then we're going to talk about some very good insurance that you may need that almost no one knows about. Let's go. In dealing with car insurance, it's crazy the amount of surprises that can pop up. But because of all the accidents I've been in, I've really had to learn how to navigate the insurance world. I'm going to help you navigate it as well. But first, let's look at how the car insurance market works overall. Car insurance is required in all but 2 states, New Hampshire and Virginia. But even in those states, you're still financially liable if you cause an accident. So you need to have car insurance, and the minimum coverage requirements are different from state to state, from $10,000 in coverage all the way up to $1 million in coverage. But most states have minimum requirements that are too low to protect you in case of a bad accident. So first, let's talk about the main type of insurance you do need. First is liability insurance. If you cause an accident, liability insurance covers the medical bills and repair costs and other related expenses like funeral costs and lost wages for the other people involved in the accident. It doesn't cover any of your bills. Now, this is the most important insurance, and this is the insurance that almost every state requires you to have. They want to make sure you can pay for any accidents you cause. Most of the time, insurance companies will offer you split coverage liability insurance, which provides you with 3 different types of coverage: bodily injury per person, bodily injury per accident, and property damage per accident. The number listed are the max amount they will pay for each category. Now, even though this is required, the minimum coverage is rarely enough in the real world. Let's look at California, for instance. The minimum requirement is $15,000 bodily injury per person, $30,000 bodily injury per accident, and $5,000 property damage per accident. This will only cover you for minor incidents. If you cause a serious injury, the medical bills alone can cost $60,000 or even all the way up to $400,000 according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. And this doesn't even account for lost wages and legal fees. And $5,000 is hardly enough to cover you if you total someone's car. The average price for a new car is over $48,000, and the average price of a used car is over $26,000. So your little $5,000 insurance policy isn't going to do anything. And the issue is worsened when people are encouraged to go to the hospital when they get into an accident, even when they aren't really hurt. Now, in one of the accidents I got into, I was coming to a stop at a red light, and I was about to make a right-hand turn, and this guy just rams into the back of me. And my neck hurt quite a bit, but it wasn't that bad, so I'm just gonna brush it off. But my lawyer informed me that if I wait too long, I might not be able to get my bills covered because you can't really connect it to the accident per se. So I went to the ER, and I'm glad I did because it turned out that I did have a neck injury. I had to go to physical therapy for months. But I can just imagine in a lot of cases that the person might not actually be hurt, and they're told to go to the hospital anyway. So this just adds extra expenses that insurance will have to cover. Right or wrong, I don't know, but let me know in the comments if you've had your lawyer tell you to do this when you got in an accident. If the damages from the accident is more than the insurance will cover, they will either go after the insurance company or they can go after you personally. According to the National Library of Medicine, over 66% of bankruptcies are related to medical bills. Now, I couldn't find a study detailing the percentage of bankruptcies caused specifically by inadequate car insurance, but I gotta imagine it plays a part in those statistics. So you gotta have good liability coverage. Your car insurance won't protect you in every situation, but at least you can insure yourself to where you'd be okay in the vast majority of cases. I usually carry $250, $500, $100K liability insurance, which will cover me in 99% of the times based on the NHTSA crash data I showed earlier. Next is collision coverage. Collision covers any damage to your property if you crash into anyone or anything, like another car or your garage or a light pole. If you crash in any kind of object, this will cover you, but it doesn't cover anyone else's property or medical bills because that's what liability insurance is for. It doesn't cover your medical bills, so it's important to have good health insurance, which I won't get into in this video. Collision also doesn't cover vandalism, theft, or acts of nature like falling trees, tornadoes, hail, or floods. And weirdly enough, even though it's a collision, it doesn't cover running into a deer or other animals, which is kind of weird. Now, you aren't required to buy collision insurance unless you leased or financed a car and the finance company required you to get that insurance. But in any case, it's almost always a smart idea to buy this for a few reasons. First, if you don't have the money to replace your car and buy it in cash. And if you finance a car and don't have collision insurance or cash in the bank, 2 car payments might be in your future. Second, if you don't want to spend all your money on another car. I don't know about you, but I'm trying to keep my money. So with or without $26,000 sitting in the bank to buy another car, that's just too much money to throw away. Collision insurance is definitely the best choice. The only time you wouldn't buy collision insurance is if your car is only worth a couple $1,000s and you'd rather take the risk and save the premium to buy a better car. You also most likely can't get collision coverage if you have a salvage title. So if that's you, it might be a good idea to get your car repaired and inspected by a state-certified mechanic so the DMV can issue you a rebuilt title. Next is comprehensive coverage. Because of the name, a lot of people think comprehensive means it covers everything. Well, it doesn't. It covers most things not covered by your liability and collision insurance. And it does include things like acts of nature, hitting a deer, if your car catches on fire, or an ex-girlfriend decides to take a sledgehammer to your car because you cheated. Don't do that. It covers your car for almost anything not collision related. And again, this isn't required, but if you can't replace your car in cash, if you don't want to take the risk, then comprehensive coverage is the smart move. The last insurance that's a must is uninsured and underinsured coverage. Uninsured and underinsured coverage protects you if you're in an accident and the other person is at fault, but they either don't have enough insurance to cover the damages or they don't have insurance at all. And it's usually structured in the same way as liability, with bodily injury per person per accident and property damage per accident. Now, this insurance is important because even though it's required by law, there's actually quite a few people out there driving without insurance. And there's also a lot of people out there that might have insurance, but they only bought the bare minimum. The first accident I ever got into was a hit and run. Now, I was driving somewhere, I don't remember where I was going, but I was in traffic and I stopped, and 2 seconds later, this guy just plowed into the back of me. I was pretty shaken up and a bit out of it, and didn't really realize that after a couple seconds, he kind of took off on me. And so I tried to chase him to get his license plate number, but the car didn't work, so it is what it is. It's probably not a good idea for me to be chasing people anyways. According to the Insurance Institute, almost 13% of drivers are uninsured. That's 1 out of every 8. That's way too many people to make me feel safe driving without this kind of insurance. And most likely those same people don't have any money, so suing them won't really get you anywhere either. So for that reason, I consider this a necessity. You may not need to get as high coverage as you have for liability insurance because you're only concerned with your own bills and not anyone else's involved in the accident. But if you're someone like me that has a family and is always driving around with everyone in the car, you might want to get that higher coverage. Now, some people think you don't need this coverage if you have health insurance, since health insurance will kick in if you get hurt. However, it's not the same coverage. Health insurance doesn't cover lost wages or pain and suffering, so it's good to keep this coverage. And really, it's so cheap half the time that it doesn't really hurt your wallet that much. I match the same coverage I have on liability for only an extra $82 a year, so it's not a huge expense. So those are the types of insurance I would never go without. But there's also other insurance that aren't exactly necessities, but they're a good idea to have. But first, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share with, well, everybody, because everyone needs car insurance. Thank you. First is medical payments coverage, or MedPay. Medical payments pays for medical expenses for you or anyone else riding with you during an accident. And they pay regardless of who's at fault. If you have health insurance, MedPay really isn't necessary. Maine and New Hampshire are the only 2 states that require it. But it's so cheap that it's like, why not? I get $5,000 of coverage for only $17 a year, so it's not a big deal. Similar to MedPay is no-fault insurance or personal injury protection insurance. Now, my introduction to no-fault insurance came when I moved to Pittsburgh because Pennsylvania is a no-fault state. Another one of the accidents I got into at a red light, again, I was about to make a right-hand turn and someone rams into the back of me. This has happened to me 3 times. Apparently, a lot of people don't know how to drive and they don't know if you come to a red light and you're about to make a right-hand turn, you still have to stop. It's basically a stop sign. But they always assume you're gonna keep on going through the light, and so they look to the left to make sure no cars are coming and they don't pay attention and don't notice that you stopped. Now, when I call my lawyer, I found out that I had to pay for, like, my insurance had to pay for all my medical bills, and it wasn't even my fault. I was so aggravated. Now, I understand now why they do that, and it sort of makes sense, sort of doesn't, but I still don't like it. Like MedPay, PIP covers medical benefits regardless of who's at fault. The difference is that it covers more, has higher limits, and is more expensive. It also has a deductible, which MedPay doesn't have. I've always had great medical insurance, so I've never really bought PIP except when I was in Pennsylvania. But it really just depends on how low the premiums are on the policy. Third is umbrella insurance. Umbrella insurance is liability coverage that kicks in to cover claims that go above and beyond your regular car insurance. This is for one of those incidents that happens almost like every day in Atlanta, where you cause a massive accident that shut down the highway. You wrecked 12 cars, sent 10 people to critical care, and racked up millions of dollars in claims and lawsuits. Your regular car insurance just isn't going to cover all that. So umbrella insurance helps protect you against any kind of large claims and lawsuits. And you know, everybody wants to sue nowadays, so it's good to protect yourself. Now, if you're broke and you don't care if they come after you because they ain't gonna get anything anyways, then you probably don't need to worry about this. But if you're wealthy and have $500,000 or $1 million or more in assets, you definitely should think about getting umbrella insurance coverage to cover the full amount of your assets. And the good thing about umbrella insurance is that it provides liability coverage for both your auto and your home. So if someone falls and breaks a hip in your house and wants to sue you, you're covered. You don't want to work all these years to have one bad accident send you to bankruptcy. Now, the last insurance we're going to talk about is something that a lot of people need, but almost no one knows about. And that's rideshare and delivery insurance. This insurance is only necessary if you do any kind of rideshare work. Your regular car insurance won't cover you at times you're online and active working for rideshare companies. Now, rideshare companies cover you for when you're online and available for a trip, but those limits are typically too low. Uber and Lyft have a $50, $125K liability policy when you're online and waiting for a trip, $1 million third-party liability when you're on your way to pick up a passenger, and $1 million in liability when you actually have a passenger riding with you. $1 million sounds like good coverage, and it is, but the problem is when you're just waiting for your next customer, the $50, $125 policy is just too low and doesn't include collision or comprehensive coverage. So let's say you drop off your customer at a football game, you pull off, make a U-turn, but don't see the person coming behind you. They crash into you and total your car. Depending on the damage, you may or may not have enough coverage for the other person, but you're definitely out of luck for your own vehicle. Your personal car insurance won't cover you. So not only are you out of a car, but you're also out of a job making money with Lyft or Uber. And you may even have a lot of medical bills to cover as well. So if you drive with Uber or Lyft, make sure you get a rideshare insurance policy as well. Now, there's a bunch of other optional insurance out there that you most likely don't need to worry about, so I won't get into those in this video. But car insurance doesn't matter if you don't have a car. So you can check out this video right here if you want to know if it's better to lease or finance a new vehicle. And again, if you like this video, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you.
I'm chuckling. I keep on moving.